listening to the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast, where each week we talk about a free piece or two of technology that you can use in your classroom. I'm your host, Shanna Martin. I'm a middle school teacher, technology coach, and personalized learning coordinator for my district.
And I'm her producer and chief digital citizen, Fuzz Martin.
Yes, we're starting with the new creative intros for you each week.
Yeah.
You're going to have a themed job.
Yes, depending on what we're speaking about for the week.
Yes. And this week, we are speaking of digital citizenship.
Digital citizenship.
Now, what's interesting is I assumed we're on episode 86. Holy cats. And I had assumed I'd already talked about this because I support staff with digital citizen tools a lot.
Yes.
Especially now with all of the extra technology happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was digging through and I was like, hey, I've never actually talked about those sites on the podcast. Which, it's one of those where I just assume everybody knows all of these things sometimes. And I don't know.
When you told me what the topic was, I said, cool. What is a digital citizen?
Yeah. So I feel like digital citizenship is kind of like buzzy kind of words.
I mean, I have an assumption of what it means.
You want kids to be great digital citizens, like be a good human on your computer or on technology, basically.
Yeah.
And there's curriculum set up around it, usually in like computers class.
Okay.
And that's where the main focus is. But what I like to do is support classroom teachers that are not computers teachers on how to teach digital citizenship like every day in class. Because you teach, like we do a lot of PBIS and we do like, kindness rocks and we teach empathy and we teach all these things like digital citizenship goes right along with all of that. And with kids using so much technology in classrooms, because if we're virtual or blended or, tech tools.
They have a mobile phone.
All the time, that it should just be in the day-to-day conversations or day-to-day lessons in the classroom.
Right.
So recently I had a couple teachers reach out to me like, hey, we're seeing some more kind of like cyberbullying stuff, or we're seeing students not handling themselves appropriately in the classroom. And I was like, hey, do you have tools to support that? And they were like, no, what do you have? So I was like, oh, here's
Let me show you. And she opens her Shanna Martin trench coat filled with tech tools.
It's like opening my laptop. I open my laptop with my tech tools. Like I would be, a trench coat watch sharer.
Yes, I don't know.
Except for the Google watches, but that's.
Oh, yeah.
That would be fun.
There you go.
I don't even own a Google
Apple Watch?
Apple Watch? Yeah, I don't know.
Now, teachers are more on the Google side than...
I don't have any of those. I have my little Fitbit. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so digital citizenship is just teaching kids to be good humans when they're on the computer. Like your digital footprint, as you know, like this is going to follow you forever. So when you're in third grade and you're taking funny pictures and
then you're running for
them,
office someday.
Yeah, people will go back and, hey, remember in third grade when you did this? Yeah, it's out there. So just teaching kids to be aware and also to help them identify if things aren't cool online.
Yeah.
Like you teach stranger danger on the playground or like, go find a trusted
right. So not just don't do this bad stuff, but also if bad stuff is happening, here's how to address it.
Yeah. So like what does fake news look like online? Like when you're researching for a school project, how do you search appropriately for, things on the computer, and how do you avoid, content that you don't want? Just things like that. So, it's self-awareness on a computer. Like you would be self-aware in the community. And it's teaching kids how to be self-aware while they're functioning in a digital world. Yeah. So to me, it's so commonplace now. Our kids are so using it all the time that they should all just every day, this should just kind of be a part of life. So on that note, a couple of the sites I'm going to talk about, there's quite a few out there. And there is sites like ISTE and Edutopia and things like that, where they offer tons of resources to schools and teachers. And you can go to those sites as well. Like they have a lot of articles and things like that. But they don't have, this is like, what I'm going to talk about today is specific curriculum. So curriculum setup that's already done for teachers. The website, if you are not familiar with it already, is commonsense.org. So COMMONSENSE.org.
Yeah.
And they have so much to offer on commonsense.org. They have stuff specifically for teachers and how to handle it in the classroom. And you can create an account just to have everything together. They don't charge you or anything like that, but that way you have access to everything because they send you little reminders to your email and stuff. And they have a whole section for parents. So it's like specifically for how do you handle if your kid is, online in your home? Like, what do you do? How do you regulate your kids? Like, it's a whole nother realm when you have kids kind of jumping on social media and stuff like that. And then they have like advocates. So those just like supporting everybody with being a good citizen. What's also, they have so much in this site, but they also have like, they rate websites and they will tell you if they are, what age they're appropriate for.
Sure.
Like what parents should be looking for. Like they rate
kind of like movie
too.
ratings or TV show ratings.
Yeah, as to like what's appropriate, age appropriateness. So they have those types of things too. But I'm just going to focus on the educator section today because the site there's like dig through it. There's so much information that's really, really helpful. So in the teacher section, so if you go under for educators in Common Sense, like education, they have a section specifically on digital citizenship, which we're talking about today. Then they have like EdTech reviews. They have professional development. They have like webinars that you can do, like if you have to do summer PD and stuff. They have resources specifically in Spanish, and then they also have distance learning resources. So under each of those categories, then they break it down as well. Into like specific articles and all kinds of stuff. So if you go under digital citizenship, they have it broken down by grade level. So like how to address different classroom needs. So they have K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9, 12. And what I really like about it, I've used this both in my classroom and like in my social studies classroom.
Sure.
I've also used it when teaching computers, and I've used it kind of in my enrichment classes. So I kind of throw out these lessons whenever I see a need for it. Not like, oh, we're teaching this curriculum today. This is how we need to roll out this lesson plan because this is the next thing to teach. It's more like in the moment, like, hey, we're seeing a lot of this behavior going on. Let's address it. And they have videos that are done with like students of that age group talking. So they're relatable and they're short. They're like 2 to 3 minutes, maybe max like 5 minutes. But they are great conversation starters. They are kids. Like I've just sat down, thrown my kids kind of pre-COVID in like a U shape, watched a video and sat around and had a discussion about, okay, what is this kid experiencing? What are you experiencing? And you're just having conversations about it.
Yeah.
But they have from topics for like grades 3rd, 4th, and 5th, media balance and well-being, privacy and security, what your digital footprint and identity looks like online, how to relationships and communication, cyberbullying, and then news and media literacy. And they're broken down for like those are the overall categories. And then they have like 3rd grade password. How do you create strong passwords? How does what I post online show people about my identity? The power of words. How do you can use hurtful language online and on the internet. And it's like very grade specific and well done to address a real issue, but also age appropriately. Like if you have 3rd graders that have their own emails and they're able to communicate now, like in Google Classroom and things like that, even if it's just a classroom chat in Google Classroom, like you can affect your classmates.
Right.
And they don't necessarily make that connection because you're just typing it, but everyone can read it. So just it's teaching them the steps at an early age of awareness on the computer that just because you can type it doesn't mean you should say it.
Right.
And there is somebody else on the other side of that computer, which is what gets lost, especially I feel like when they're a little younger and they're kind of just like,
yeah,
woo,
you could be
I got a
having
computer.
a inappropriate one-on-one conversation that may have happened that nobody heard, but now it's essentially public, or at least public to your little ecosystem of students, and can hurt the people that more than it would in other situations. And I think the internet puts a layer of, or takes away, I guess, some of the those layers of self-awareness that you would typically have. That would say, I wouldn't say this to your face.
Right. You're comfortable just typing it because you'd be like comfortable writing it in a note to somebody.
Right.
And you may shred it up and never give it to that person, versus on that computer, it's not going away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So also in common sense,
I get it now, Shanna. I understand what being a good digital citizen means.
Yay. I hope you practice.
I'll try.
Digital citizenship skills.
I might have to watch a few videos.
That's fine. There are plenty. What's also cool then, so like that's like 3rd, 5th, but again, there's 6th, 7th, and 8th, which I've used quite a bit. And again, they're very relatable, and it's not like, hey, it's not cheesy. Like, they're just useful. But like 9, 12, it's again those same 6 topics, but then like specific 10th grade, like encountering hate speech online. Like, how do you address that? Like, what do you do? Challenging confirmation bias. Like, how do we challenge our own, like, then as they get older, like, who's looking, like 12th grade, 11th grade, who's looking at your digital footprint? If you're going for a job, I can't tell you. Like, I Google everybody. And teaching students that. Clicks for cash. How does the internet advertising contribute to the spread of disinformation? So the categories are very well done and very age appropriate. So you don't have to be a computers teacher to be teaching digital citizenship. You can throw out one of these quick discussion points, videos into your classroom and address it.
I once had part of my job is hiring copywriters. And I once had a fresh out of school college copywriter that was applying for a junior position. And he had a blog, and he wrote about how much he hates the people who are interviewing him. And so I was actually interested in hiring him, but then I read that blog.
And then you didn't.
And I sent him a note and said, whatever his name was, it was a number of years ago now. I said, that we check everything. We check your social media, we check the portfolio that you send, and we Google your name to see what comes up. And
that's almost protocol now. Right. Everybody does that.
And this article here talks about, like he was being like mean, like in a like physical sense of people that probably weren't at our agency, based on the descriptions, but wasn't something that we wanted involved. Right. And it just like, I thought, like, you're a writer, right? You should know this stuff. And
was there ever a response?
There was, and he apologized up and down, but he didn't get the job, obviously.
And did he delete it?
I don't know. I didn't. Never looked at it again, because that's how that works.
Right. And just moved on.
And so hopefully he learned a lesson. But
maybe if he had more digital citizenship in his lessons learned,
right,
he would have made better choices online.
Perhaps he would have, or perhaps had that been a topic that it came up, maybe. But now, hopefully he's learned that lesson there. Maybe he is an advocate for digital citizenship now that he's had that experience, and he uses that experience to help guide others in a positive manner.
That would be wonderful.
Are my glasses rose colored tonight? I think they're today.
So, along with commonsense.org, they also have a link to a game.
Okay.
And the site is...
Oh, yes. You're pointing at me because your computer didn't want it to load it because your computer needs some love. It is called digitalcompass.org and the /game. And then the name of the game, if I click this button, we're going to hear it. So let me turn that off, and I'll go home, because I'm inside one of the characters. The name is Welcome to Anywhere. Is that the name of the game? Maybe.
The game is Digital Compass.
Yeah, and then it says welcome to anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere's the place.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I can't see your
screen. It just says Common Sense Digital Compass.
Yeah.
Click to start. You go on there and
then you go to anywhere. Yes. Anywhere's the place.
Anywhere is the place.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, my computer's frozen right now for that game in particular because, well, my computer needs to be replaced. But anyway, neither here nor there.
See, Shanna makes a part of her living installing Chrome extensions to help you learn how to use Chrome extensions, but sometimes she has maybe too many.
Maybe.
Or maybe.
Or just like two sets of, I have too many things.
There's too many things going on in the computer.
And I don't like to close anything. And we've talked about all my tab managers. Yeah. We've done this. We're working on it. My computer's also like 6 years old. So anyway, right. Again, neither here nor there. But Digital Compass, I have used with my middle schoolers. It can definitely be used. It could be used probably through freshmen, but older high schoolers might find it a little silly. And then I wouldn't go anything lower than 5th grade.
Okay.
So definitely like 6th grade to like 9th grade-ish.
Sure.
Probably. But what Digital Compass does is it actually, even there's fun little cartoon characters like a daffodil and I think an ox and a
there were
and a cat and a duck and stuff.
Right.
But each character, when you go to anywhere, that it's like a choose your own adventure. So in like cyberspace kind of, so like you're the ox and if you click on it and he like gets a text message from a friend and how do you respond to that? Like you can choose, like, do you respond positively? Do you ignore it? Or do you respond negatively? And then these are the consequences for it. So it takes you through the different like cyber situations.
Yep.
And then actually what outcomes would look like. And they're pretty realistic.
Yep.
Even though there's like cartoony and cutesiness, it's helpful. So some students like, oh, I totally would have not responded that way. And you're like, yeah, well, why? And, why would you respond this way? So,
here's an example. This one, I clicked on the candy.
Yeah.
Its name is Miko. Mm-hmm. So, sticky situation. Miko finds herself in a sticky situation and signing up for the newest app that everyone is obsessing over. Out of the skate park, she finds herself experiencing twists and turns as she stumbles over how to protect her privacy. How can you help her protect her online identity? And then you click start story and it goes into the piece. So teaching kids, like you're downloading that new app. And if you're letting your kids just download apps on their phones,
you can stop that as a parent.
Perhaps you and I should have a conversation, you listener and me. We can talk about how to address that. But it's good even shielding them by not letting them download stuff doesn't help them when they become 18 and have control over that. You need to learn that stuff now. So,
right.
So having something like this from digitalcompass.org/game will help them learn a lesson that hopefully they remember when they're able to download apps all by themselves without parental supervision.
And it's created by Common Sense. So it goes along with those lessons and the videos and stuff that are, it all kind of goes together, which is nice.
Yeah.
And reinforces the learning. And it's not you always telling them, hey, don't bully your friends online, because they need to know the consequences of that.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Nice.
So that's fun. And then there's one last little tech tool I want to share. And it's created by Google. And it is Be Internet Awesome.
Yes.
.withgoogle.com.
Okay.
And Google has created, it's called Interland. And
Interland, like internet land.
Yes.
Not hinterland, like the German word for the backwoods.
Correct. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Knowledge today.
Interland. Very cool graphics.
Yes. And so Interland is really cool. I have students that they get into it because it's gaming, but again, it's still digital citizenship. Mm-hmm. So what it does is there's like different little
worlds,
I guess. Yeah. It's like a world you kind of float around. Oh. And the first one, you got the sound going.
Turn my sound off there. Sorry.
And they have like different things. So like one section's like fact or fiction. So you have to navigate through with these different tasks And in order to move ahead, it's very gamified. Like while like when you're going through anywhere in the digital compass, it's like choose your own adventure. Interland is very
linear,
gamified. Like you feel like you're in a game versus just answering a choose your own adventure kind of thing. They both definitely have their purpose. Interland, I use the common sense, the anywhere more as like classroom discussion. Like they do one for a few minutes and we have a discussion. Interland, they just like crank through and it's challenging. So like one of the questions, there's 10 questions in each world, I guess. And they're focused, like one's on specific on email and one's on specific on like digital footprint and things like that.
There's one on being kind.
Online, yeah. So you get an email with a hilarious subject line that is obviously a scam. That's your setup. Then like, what do? Do you
click the link?
Do you avoid it? Do you mark it as spam? Do you delete it and forget it? So like they give you different choices, and then if you make the right choice, then you can move on to the next spot. If you get it wrong, like you're thrown back in the river and you have to start over. So they give you like real questions. They put you in situations, but it's definitely gamey. And the graphics, like you can start hearing my computer hum now. The graphics are cool, but because of that, they take a little more.
The wording is cool too because it's definitely written for Gen Z. So like vibes of all kinds are contagious for better or worse. In the sunniest corner of town, troublemakers are spreading negativity everywhere. And then this is in the kind kingdom, and where your goal is to go around and make the upset characters not be upset anymore, essentially. So but it just like the whole vibes thing, you know, it's like they've written it in a middle to high school. Yeah.
And the other part is like this is the Fisher dismisser, like because you avoided the phishing scam. But they also give you the answer as to why yours was wrong. So, like, if you answered it wrong, they won't just say no. They'll say the reason why is, and they get, you know, that teaching piece of it where they, like, you need to report a phishing scam because of this. You know, it gives you the pieces to it. So, so Be Internet Awesome. It's really cool. It's highly engaging. I can't tell you. And you score through the whole thing and you travel through the whole thing. And you're, like, super cool because you've made it through Interland. So, yeah.
Cool.
beinternetawesome.withgoogle.com.
Yep, great.
Is the setup for that one.
Yeah. Block and report troublemakers to stop their takeover and be kind to other internauts to restore their peaceful nature.
I also feel like this might be a good review for adults.
Probably.
Just because
I can think of a few that I would send it to today.
You know? Like, hey, this is a great game. You should check it out.
Hey, why don't you go play this? Retweet. Like, share. No, I agree. I agree.
On the internet.
I agree.
But yeah, so just a little digital citizenship. I know we're all in the midst of like lots of technology use, but it's kind of good to come back to and sometimes reinforce in other classrooms and other spaces just because everybody needs, you know, to be a little nicer online. Yeah.
And they should know about some of the things. We didn't have these kind of resources growing up, so we just kind of had to find our way around and learn by mistakes.
By clicking and putting bad pictures of yourself online.
But now that we've learned from those mistakes, I think teaching the next generation to avoid them altogether will help us ourselves be better digital citizens.
Nice. Good work on that one.
My name is Fuzz Martin. I am the Chief Digital Citizen.
On that note,
at Tech Tools for Teachers and Snoring Dog Media.
Thanks for tuning in. This has been episode 86.
Yep.
It has been the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast. If you ever have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at SmartNWI. And if you want to find more information on the links to the technology discussed in this episode, you can visit smartnwi.com, that fabulous EdTech Directory. Feel free to share with others. You can also find me on Facebook or on Twitter. New episodes each week, except for next week. We have Easter break. So we have a 3-day weekend.
Cool.
We'll be back the following week in April.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. Go educate and innovate.
The ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast and the Smart and WI website are those of the author, Shanna Martin. You just heard her speaking, and not of her employer. You didn't hear them. Prior to any of the technologies discussed on this podcast, please consult with your employer regulations. This podcast offers no guarantee that these tools will work for you as described, but we sure hope they do, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks here on the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast.